Well, good morning to all you lovely people. We've got people from all over the world on today's webinar. We've got people from the Netherlands, from the UK, from Australia, from Switzerland, from the dullest part of Northampton, apparently, according to one person's comments as well. We've got Swansea, we've got Sussex, we've got people from Canada, from Switzerland. So lovely to have you all with us. I'm here today with my good friend Ian Clifford, who's going to be presenting for you today. I'm going to be hosting the webinar. If you don't know who I am, my name's Andy. Sims, unfortunately, has been under the weather this week, so I'm taking over just for the weekend to give Sims a break and time to recover. So I'm afraid you've got to put up with my ugly mug today, but hopefully we can get through all the questions in the chat. Just a little bit of housekeeping, guys. They often say the greatest way to say something is to say nothing at all. So if you've got something nice to say, I would love to hear that in the chat. But please, let's stay away from negativity. Let's stay away from derogatory comments. Let's keep the chat positive, and let's keep it engaging. If we do see any negative or derogatory comments, they will be removed. And if it continues, I have a 3-strike rule. So that means that if we continue to see that, you will be removed from today's webinar. And we don't want that. We want you all to benefit from this. And we want to keep the energy light and positive, because that's what we're here for. So today's subject matter, also, just before we get started on the subject matter, you may have noticed at the top of the webinar, I have posted for you all the relevant links for today's webinar. They will appear on one of the slides, but you can't click them on the slide. So they're right at the very top on all the channels and in the webinar chat as well. All the relevant links are there for you to copy and paste if you need them. And we will be having some handouts as well that will be available for you in the members platform as soon as the webinar is finished, along with the recording of today's webinar as well. So appreciate you all for joining us. Appreciate some of you joining us at silly hours of the morning or of the night if you're in New Zealand, or if the morning if you're over on the west coast of the US, and everything in between. So let's not waste any valuable time. Let's introduce Ian. He's going to be giving us our subject matter for today, which is our flagship, the Monopoly Game Changer. And the Monopoly Game Changer is a series of protocols, 3 in particular, that have all been linked together to provide you with the ultimate solution to freedom. It really is. It's about changing your standing. It's about protecting your assets, and it's about reclaiming what is rightfully yours. All the taxes paid on your signature energy since the age of 18. So I'm super excited to dig into today's content. Ian, over to you.
Well, thank you, Andy. I think it's probably worth me explaining why there is negative propaganda out there on the internet.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's actually a 20-year backstory, which I won't go into the detail, but if you are interested in the detail, you can go and look at Ian Clifford Whistleblower.is, which is a website dedicated to my backstory and the fact that I became a whistleblower against the top 6 banks in around 2008. When my prior financial services firm, which was the 3rd largest of its type in the UK at the time, that had a joint venture with Halifax Bank of Scotland, at the time one of the biggest banks in the United Kingdom, that then it basically transferred into another bank called Lloyds Bank because it was insolvent. I blew the whistle on HBOS. It's a very long story. I won't bore you with the detail, but basically I became a whistleblower because the banks, the top 6 banks in the United Kingdom, had grabbed assets, like repossessed, foreclosed unlawfully in most cases, £90 billion worth of assets from their own customers. My firm got dragged into it. I was made a scapegoat for £1 billion of that 90 billion. That then set off a whole series of events where I took on the establishment in the courts. I took on the financial regulators that were called the Financial Services Authority. I took on the Treasury, United Kingdom Treasury. I took on the Bank of England. I exposed many very high profile people in around about 2010, 2011. After they destroyed all my my infrastructure and my firm and my reputation and all of those things which they generally do. It's a vendetta. It's been going on since quite aggressively since 2010, so 16 years. Multiple ventures destroyed by the British cabal, and their tools to try and silence me and my talent for solving complex problems is to pump out negative media all over the internet. They use proxies. They get people who don't look like they work for the cabal to pump out negative propaganda. So you'll see it on the internet from magazines. You'll see it from alleged experts. You'll see it from various competitors of the Republic of Old Souls. All of these people have been recruited to pump out negative propaganda about me and about our team, but specifically about me. And those that work with me and those that have been on many of my webinars know that none of this propaganda is true. They know of my abilities because I think if you read my research papers, it's pretty clear to see that I know this subject inside and out. I'll finish off with this. There's a fellow called Dan Needle, who is an ex-partner of one of the biggest law firms in the United Kingdom called Clifford Chance. He started publishing blogs and various internet posts from about 2024, claiming that I'm a tax fraudster. Anyway, within the last 3 months, I've engaged directly with him. I've challenged him to a debate because he claims that he's a tax expert. I've proven to him that the Clifford Protocol is perfectly lawful. It's 100% exactly how the system is built. He never came to the debate and he never engaged with me on the technical side because, quite frankly, he's way out of his depth on this. They don't teach you this in the conventional universities and the tax courses and all of those things. What I'm going to show you today is basically not in any training manual anywhere, but it's 100% true and it's 100% proven to work with 600 million of confirmed IRS confirmed recoupments last year in 2025, with multiple disbursements of checks in 2024, with many other people that have copied the Clifford Protocol in other groups of people that study the subject getting results. So if anybody in this, on this webinar thinks that this is just a theory, it really isn't. We've proven it works. And I've published multiple research papers on exactly why it works. And Andy and I did an interview only yesterday, breaking it all down, which you can find on our Telegram channels. You can also find it at ROS Media. I'm going to be interviewed by some fairly high profile people in the next few weeks, which probably will set off a series of interviews on various channels. And I think that the more people that read my papers, come to my webinars and come to the interviews that I do with Andy, more and more people are beginning to realize that this has got a lot of substance and this is real. This is not a fantasy story. This is a real opportunity, but it's not available for everybody in the world. And I'll explain why that is. There is a limitation on how many people that can do it. And I'll explain why as we go through. And just to finish the propaganda story, they've tried to jail me twice. I'm openly in North Cyprus in constructive exile, challenging a sentence that they handed down in July of 2025, which has got absolutely no substance. It's all detailed on the iancliffordwhistleblower.is. And it's currently in the UK Court of Appeal, who refuse to review my case. They just stall it because they know I'm absolutely right. They never had a case. There's no substance to it. But all over the internet, you're going to find references about Ian Clifford. They call me Ian Clifford Stamp. That's not me, by the way. That's the name of the birth certificate construct. I go by Ian Clifford because that's the Christian names, the proper names for me, the man. And it tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? When you appeal a sentence and the court, since December of 2025, even though they're mandated to review the case, doesn't review the case because they know if they do, they have to basically void it because it is void anyway. They have to remove it from from the scene, and that would cause a massive problem for the British cabal because it then opens the door to 16 years worth of malfeasance and worth of destruction of all of my ventures over the last 16 years. But the good news is, if the British establishment hadn't destroyed my reputation and my ventures and my wealth, because I was one of the richest guys in the UK back in 2009, I wouldn't be talking to you today. I wouldn't be explaining this today. I'd be still running my financial services firms all over the world, operating all the things I used to do. So the silver lining to the cabal's destruction of my reputation and all this negative propaganda is it's created this opportunity for you. I'm basically in constructive exile, quite simply because I am determined and we will achieve this, to build the world's only freedom community with a sovereign nation with its own infrastructure. And that is why I do this. What we're talking about today is how to play Monopoly and how to recoup signature credit and protect your assets and all those kind of things. But that's not my motivation. My motivation is to build the Republic of Old Souls as a sovereign nation with its own independent infrastructure so that we can all avoid the UN Agenda 2030, which is coming in all around us on every level. And if you don't know what UN Agenda 2030 is, I suggest you have a look out there on the alternative media. You won't find this on the mainstream media about what it really is and what they're really doing. And that's the big motivation here. This is a pathway. This is a way of financing our sovereign nation. And whilst we're doing that, you, if you're interested in recouping your signature credit, will completely and utterly change your game of Monopoly. It will never be the same again if you adopt the game changer, the Monopoly game changer. You simply won't ever operate on the Monopoly board in the same way ever again, and your world and your game of commerce will be completely transformed. So that's me. I'm done now. So Andy, over to you.
All right. Well, let's get started. So I've got the slides. Can everybody see the slides? I hope that you can. And yeah, I will go into the first one and we'll get moving in.
So what I've done here is to break it down. I've got voluminous research that I've written over the last few years. I've been studying this for 10 years in great detail. And I honestly believe, and a lot of people have told me this, that I don't think there's anybody else who's studied it in the way I have and had proven every single part of it to be real and true and reliable. And then not only studying it, and I'm not offering people books or courses, to actually build all the infrastructure to make it a reality for those who want to enroll into it. The average, if you're wondering, the average from so far from the people that are doing it, and there are many of them, there are thousands of our members already doing this, by the way, or certainly doing the recoupment of their signature credit for the last 3 years, and we'll talk about the extension to that as we go through. So far, those that we've reviewed, the average that you can recoup and spend and recoup is around £3 million, around that. Now, if that's not a life-changing amount, I don't know what is. I said to Andy yesterday on the interview we did, can you imagine that you went in a newsagent's store and you bought a lottery ticket, you went home, the lottery organizer sent you a text message and said, you better come in because you've won. And then what you did was you just forgot to go in the newsagents and collect your claim form. That is exactly what everybody in the world is doing. They've all got a winning lottery ticket, but very few people even know how to claim it. And very few people even know that they've won. Every one of us has got a winning lottery ticket. And that winning lottery ticket is the Clifford Protocol, which I'll explain. So just imagine that. If you were sitting at home with the winning lottery ticket, do you think you'd go and claim it? Or do you think you'd just say, nah, I'm going to watch some TV or get on the internet and search about on social media and not worry about it? I think nearly everybody on this webinar would be down there like a shot to get the claim form for their winnings. That's what we're offering here in a nutshell. It's not a lottery. Or you could argue maybe it is a lottery. The Monopoly board, maybe it is a lottery. Or maybe it's a game of snakes and ladders, which is another interesting game which was introduced to kind of rub it in our face about how the game of commerce works. So that's what we're going to look at. For those who are on this webinar that are existing members, enrolled members, I'm going to be talking at the back end of the webinar about how you can upgrade, because if you are doing signature credit recoupment, which was once called bank payment recoupments, if you joined us in 2025, early 2025, or even in 2024, this is your opportunity to upgrade and to go back to the age of 18 and recoup all of the signature credit, which is, just to be clear, before we get into the detail, signature credit creates bank payments. Signature credit creates mortgages, the face value of mortgages, loans, credit cards, and other things. But the dominant signature credit is bank payments. What leaves your bank account, that's a bank payment. Or what appears to leave your bank account, whether it's personal or whether it's a business account, it's the same signature event creating the credit, mortgage, loan, credit cards, the face value of those. If you add all that together from the age of 18, that is your winning lottery ticket right there. And you can't just claim it once, or you won't just claim it once. You'll claim it, and then you'll spend it, and then you'll claim it back, and you'll spend it, and then you'll claim it back. So it's not just one lottery ticket, it's a lottery ticket that you can get every year and cash it in. Okay, so let's move it on, Andy, please. Probably in all of my study, the most significant event happened in 1933, which was House Joint Resolution 192. I've got a copy of the original House Joint Resolution 192. I might actually send it out on our Telegram channel because it's very interesting. Some people, and I had a message this morning, say that it's been repealed. Well, it hasn't, because it can't be repealed because it's a permanent resolution. It's never going to be repealed. And basically what happened in 1933 was that the entire game of Monopoly, which we're all playing, whether we realize it or not, the artificial game of Monopoly, the whole World Monopoly Board went into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The United States being the reserve currency of the world, the creditors to the Monopoly Board, the big banks, the big banking families, who'd set all this up over many years before, one of the most notable events was in 1913, the Federal Reserve Act, which came into being after the Titanic was sunk. I say it was sunk deliberately because on that Titanic you had some very prominent bankers who absolutely did not want the Federal Reserve Act to come into being, and so they got rid of those guys. And then those that remained, one of the main ones was JP Morgan, went to a place called Jekyll Island and created the Federal Reserve Act, which was the beginning of the new system of money. In 1933, the entire Monopoly Board was made bankrupt. Chapter 11, a permanent reorganization of the Monopoly Board. Everything on the Monopoly Board then was mortgaged, and people, will find this extraordinary, right? So every asset on the Monopoly Board is in hoc mortgaged to the original creditors to the bankruptcy of the United States. Those that control the Monopoly Board took away money of substance, what used to be money backed by gold, and replaced it with money of account, which is basically ledgers. There is no such thing as money of substance anymore. Everything on the Monopoly Board is digital. Everything on the Monopoly Board is based on ledgers, and there is no substance to it. But we all use it as if it has substance. We think money has substance, or I don't, but the majority of people out there do. It's a very, very clever system that they have created. I said to Andy yesterday on our interview that I actually believe, and I'm happy to debate this with anybody, that the way this system is being introduced is not of human making. It is alien in its making. It is so, so clever. I don't believe that a handful of guys in 1913 dreamed this up and then were able to roll it out on a worldwide basis. And still today, nearly over 100 years on, it's still operating exactly the way it was designed. I say that is not of human origin. It's too clever. It's taken me 10 years to untangle it and figure it all out, and then get it verified. And get this, have everything I'm talking to you about today verified by AI, which will surprise a lot of you, I'm sure. Surprised me. And the only reason I was able to get it all verified was because I broke it all down into individual chunks, like the House Joint Resolution 192, got the AI system to confirm that is true, accurate. Yeah, that's exactly what this is about. Every part of the Clifford Protocol. And then I joined all the parts together, so the AI couldn't tell me it was nonsense. It had to, because it had already agreed all the component parts. It had to agree with me because I bypassed its constraints. And that if you are looking on AI, which a lot of people are doing now, AI is going to tell you that this isn't real, that this has no validity, and that's because it's been programmed to tell you that, because they don't want the slaves to break free from the slave planet and the monopoly game. They want everybody to be retained in slavery. It's a modern slavery system of genius proportions. House Joint Resolution 192, the entire Monopoly Board went into a permanent reorganization. James Traficant was the senator for Ohio. He read it out, the biggest reorganization in world history, where they took away the gold, replaced it with a system of ledgering, took a mortgage out over all of the assets. What do I mean by that? All the property, all the land, all the infrastructure, everything, worldwide, not just in the United States, worldwide, because the United States is the reserve currency of the world. And critically important, they took a mortgage out over the energy of all of the people who have come of age. by the birth certificate registration process. So that is what's going on. Everything on the Monopoly board is operating in bankruptcy, which will be an astonishing revelation for many of you on this webinar who haven't been to my previous webinars. Literally everything on the Monopoly board is based on debt. It's all negative, and everything is bankrupt. Now, the shocking news is that even if you had 20 houses, a yacht, a plane, and a massive business that turns over billions a year, actually, your wealth, if you were in that category, would be zero. Because everything on the Monopoly board is registered to the state in bankruptcy. Everything is negative. But what I'm going to show you today is how to untangle the system. How to, if you imagine that you were in a maze, in the middle of a maze, and you wanted to get out and collect your recoupment, I'm going to show you how to get out of this maze, which is very, very difficult to do. Most people don't even know they're in a maze, and that's one of the geniuses of this modern slavery system. So one of the big areas, if you're interested in research, have a good look at House Joint Resolution 192, which is still in operation today because it is a permanent joint resolution, not just something temporary, permanent reorganization, never be repealed. And there's a reason why, because if they repealed it, the whole world economy would have to be restructured, and there are no way are they ever going to do that. Next slide. So the next piece of information, which, breaking it down into bite-sized chunks and trying to keep it as simple as I possibly can. I want you to imagine that you are sitting at a table, and on the table you have a game of Monopoly, the game board. And in order to play the game of Monopoly, you need a piece, yeah? You need a player piece. Because you can't play Monopoly without a player piece. And the player piece that you are going to use on the game of Monopoly in the real, in the game that we've all been playing is the citizen, the person, the birth certificate construct. The entity that is created following your mum and dad's registration of the birth certificate entity, which is actually the placenta. There is a DNA linkage between the living baby and the dead placenta. And later on, the birth certificate construct becomes the player piece on the game of Monopoly. And the player piece is a banker. Under the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, the player piece, the citizen, the person, the straw man, call it whatever you like, basically it is a decedent estate. It's like a trust. And by the way, the whole Monopoly board is like a trust. It's all one big trust that's in bankruptcy. So you have this player piece and you move it around the board, and the only way you can move it around the board is by transferring your human energy onto the Monopoly board. And that human energy is what the whole Monopoly board works on. It all runs on human energy. It's like a massive slavery farm using human energy to move everything around the board. All of the commerce based on human energy. And the controlling entity, if you like, of the whole Monopoly board is the bankruptcy trustee, which is the United States Treasury. They were appointed the bankruptcy trustee for the entire Monopoly board, worldwide, not just in the United States, everywhere, because the whole board is a worldwide Monopoly board. Even if you're in Russia, even if you were in China, you would still be playing the game of Monopoly, where the United States Treasury is the bankruptcy trustee for the entire board. Very surprising, yeah? People think that all these countries are separated. They're not. They're all operating in a trust, every single one of them. All this nonsense about countries going to war with each other and all this kind of thing, it's all one system. The money system is one world system. I've proven it. I've done a whole webinars on it. I've broken it all down step by step. And the money system is what glues it all together. Worldwide control of the money. I think it was one of the I think it was Rockefeller who once said, he doesn't care who's in government, he controls the money with the Rothschilds. So if you control the money system, you control the world. And that is absolutely true. And they do control the money system. The United States Treasury, their job is to look after the creditors. They collect taxes from the debtors and they allocate the taxes they've collected to the creditors. That's what bankruptcy trustees do. They collect from the debtors and they pay out to the creditors. Well, the good news is that everyone on this webinar and everybody else who is over the age of 18 or 21, depending on which country they're in, the living men and women are the creditors to the entire Monopoly board. That's one of the really big pieces of good news that I've got for you on this webinar. You are not a debtor. You are a creditor to the taxes that are being paid by the debtors on the Monopoly board. And it's all because the entire Monopoly board is bankrupt. On one side, you have debtors. On the other side, you have creditors. You are one of the creditors. Everyone is one of the creditors if they're over the age of 18 or 21. Next slide. Now, in order for the game of Monopoly to work, there has to be a player piece on the Monopoly board that is a fictional, it's an artificial construct. That's the birth certificate, the all capitals name. It's not you. I think many people on this webinar, probably everybody, realizes that the birth certificate construct, the person, the citizen, the straw man is not them. If you don't realize that already, then research that. On ecclesia law, I write a lot of research papers. There is a research paper at Ecclesia Law Institute where I talk all about the agency between the living man, woman, and the birth certificate construct. It is one of the most important research papers on that website because everything that is going on the Monopoly board, the living man woman is the agent for the birth certificate construct, this artificial construct, decedent estate that is the player piece on the board, on the Monopoly board. Everything that is going on is joined on the Monopoly board by agency to the living man woman. There's a lot of people out there who believe that you can separate the living man woman from the birth certificate construct, from the straw man. You can't. It's impossible to do it because there is a DNA linkage between what was the baby that became the living man woman and the birth certificate construct. And actually, you don't want to sever the tie. What you want to do is take control of the birth certificate construct. And we talk about that a bit later on. So if you are playing Monopoly and you're sitting at the Monopoly table, you're real, you're the living man or woman, and you're moving the player piece around the board, that is the straw man, the citizen, the person. It's not you. But you are responsible for everything it does on the Monopoly board as its agent. The law of agency makes you liable, the living man, woman, for everything the straw man, citizen, person does on this artificial, bankrupt Monopoly board. Next slide. Now, 10 years ago, when I was taking on the banks and the UK Treasury and the financial regulator, a pillar of my whistleblowing and my case was the fact that the banks that had stolen this 90 billion of assets, I started introducing research from a guy called Professor Richard Werner, who wrote a book in the early 2000s called The Princes of the Yen. It's all about the Japanese economy and how they financed it. It's how the Chinese economy is financed. Ex nihilo credit creation. I started reading Richard Werner's papers. It made perfect sense to me. Remember, I was a money manager, but I didn't actually know where the money came from. So that's extraordinary, isn't it? One of the, my firm was the third largest in the UK of its type, and I'm managing money, but I never actually looked into where it comes from. Because in all the courses and qualifications I took, they don't tell you. But Richard Werner, he studied it, 16 years worth of study, and determined that the banks create the currency ex nihilo from the signature credit energy of the people. It doesn't exist before. Every time you make a bank payment, sign for a mortgage, loan or credit card, you are creating that by transferring your signature credit. You are creating the bank payment. You are creating the face value of the mortgage, loan or credit card through your signature. All the banks do is operate a system of ledgering where they create your signature energy into a debt. And that debt stays on the monopoly board, and your signature credit is therefore abandoned. The moment you sign something, your credit is converted into currency, into debt, because all currency is debt-based, and your energy is now on the monopoly board. And every government around the world is creating ex nihilo credit creation all the time. Everything they finance is created ex nihilo, meaning out of the signature energy of the people. They've monetized all of the birth certificates. Every time that the living man, woman transfers their energy through a signature, that creates the world debt. If you look at world debt, go on the world debt clock. You can get it on the internet. You'll see that the world debt is going up and up and up and up. It never comes down. That is signature energy going onto the board as debt. And it's never going to come down. It can't come down because the whole board is bankrupt and everything on the board is debt, negative debt. So it cannot go down. It can only expand, which is why we have inflation. I was asked a little while ago, could I do a webinar on why there is inflation? Why do goods and services go up in price? And that's all because of the system. It's all to do with ex nihilo credit creation and the interest that the banks charge back. So let me ask a question. Maybe you could we can do. I don't know if you can do a poll. Can you, Andy? Is it possible you could do one?
I can put a poll out right now if you want. Yeah.
Let's do a poll, right? Right. I want to ask everybody on the webinar. If you were walking along in the high street, back in the day when there used to be high street shops, and you were stopped in the high street and somebody said to you, hey, would you like to take a loan from our bank? And you were looking for a loan at the time. And you said, yeah, okay, I'm interested. What's your deal? And the guy says to you, I'll tell you what, how much money have you got in your wallet right now or your purse? And you say, I've got $1,000 in my purse or my wallet. And the banker says to you, I'll tell you what, give that to me and I will lend it back to you and then charge you interest on that $1,000. And that's how our bank works. And we can provide you with that $1,000 loan. Would you like to come over and sign up for that? How many people would say yes to that deal?
Well, shall we find out?
Let's find out, shall we?
So I'm going to start a poll on this one, guys. You'll see it on screen. So would you take a loan under those circumstances? I'm showing it now. Type 1 in the chat if you would. Type 2 in the chat if you wouldn't. Look at that.
Not surprisingly, no one would take that deal, right? But the reality is, every one of us probably has already taken that deal without realizing it. Every mortgage, loan, credit card, that's exactly what we've done. We have deposited our signature energy, our credit with the bank. They've converted it into currency, sent it back to us, and then said that we've got to pay interest to them. We've all done it. And yet if somebody came up and explained it in the high street, you'd never go for it. But we've all done it, including me, many times over. So that's the game, right? The money system. That's why it's a modern slavery system. And interest on this currency or this, this debt creation model is the reason why there is inflation. But I could go into that in a lot more depth, but not for today. Next slide, please. So the birth certificate it's a registered security. And a lot of people think that you can cash it in. You can't cash it in. It's not yours. I'll explain why. Your mum and your dad signed up for a process called a birth certificate registration. And the birth certificate is like a decedent estate because it's representative of the placenta, but it's dead because the placenta dies. So it therefore becomes a decedent estate. And like an estate is a form of a trust. And it's registered to the state. Anything that is registered to the state hands over the legal title, the true ownership of the thing to the state. So what they've done is they have created this artificial entity by coercing your mum and dad to sign up for a registration where the entity itself, the birth certificate construct, is registered to the state, and then they've taken a mortgage out over it because that is what is backing the bankruptcy. If you remember House Joint Resolution 192, the mortgage over the people. Well, they've taken a mortgage out over all of the birth certificates, every one of them. And when you get to age 18 or 21, now as the agent for the banking entity of the birth certificate construct, you are now transferring your signature credit onto the monopoly board, which the banks are going to use as if it was theirs, even though it belongs to you, in exactly the way I just described. You transfer, you make a deposit, and then they lend it back to you. That's what you're doing all the time. Now, the interesting thing about signature credit is that human energy is valued at zero. There is no tangible value to signature credit energy. We did this yesterday, but if I said to Andy, hey, Andy, I'm pretty good at cutting hedges. I notice your hedge needs cutting. And Andy says, well, I'm pretty good at washing cars. So we could do an exchange, yeah? I could cut Andy's hedge and Andy could wash my car, and I'd like him to polish it as well. And that exchange would be zero, right? Because we're just exchanging our energies and our skills and talents. There is no value of signature credit energy at the outset. But what the banks do is they take the signature credit energy that's valued at zero at the outset, at the moment the signature is being converted into currency, and they give it a very, very high future value. And that future value, which by the way is a negative value because it's a debt, they trade it. The banks trade it and they make more debt from it. It's called hypothecation. And what is going on is that as soon as the signature is transferred, the energy is deposited onto the monopoly board through a bank. The bank is actually operating as a trustee for the living man, woman. A trustee, a nominee, or call it a fiduciary, but in the tax legislation, it's a nominee. And that's very, very important. So the signature creates the currency. The currency is debt. The debt has a deep negative value in the future. It's a promise to pay in the future. It's actually a negotiable instrument. The birth certificate construct is a banker, as evidenced by the Bills of Exchange Act 1882. If you read it, it says a body of persons are bankers. Well, the birth certificate construct is a body of persons. There's a lot of them. The whole world is full of these persons, these artificial constructs, and they are the conduit. The artificial entities are the conduit to transfer the signature energy onto the monopoly board through the nominees, the banks operating as nominees, trustees, fiduciaries for the living men and women who are the creditors. But here's something else. If you imagine that the monopoly board itself is artificial, because it is artificial, you can't talk to it, you can't step on it, you definitely can't take it out for dinner. You could have it sitting next to you as a bit of paper with a number on it, but you absolutely couldn't talk to it. So if you imagine that you're the living man, woman, and you are moving this piece around the board, and that piece is getting basically more and more debt accumulated as it goes round and round the board, you aren't able to step on the board. You aren't able to communicate with the artificial entity. But all you can do, which is what you are doing, is operate as its agent. The monopoly board itself and everything on it, all of the property registrations, all of the company registrations, all of the investment portfolio registrations, everything is artificial. And it's all being financed through your signature. Next slide. And this will surprise a lot of people because people like Dan Needle, who I mentioned earlier, this ex-tax lawyer who's got a big social media following, working for the British cabal as their proxy, as their media proxy. If you go on AI or look on the internet and just stick in their original issue discount, how does it work? It's going to tell you that if you are trading in negotiable instruments or securities and you have overpaid taxes on the profits generated from your trading of those securities, based upon an original issue discount calculation, you can actually recoup taxes, federal taxes that have been overpaid. And that's what most people believe original issue discount is. The overpayment of federal taxes. Well, in fact, it isn't. Well, let me qualify that. It is that, but that is only a tiny proportion of original issue discount. Every signature event, every signature credit event creates a future value, which is a negative value, and the banks are trading this future value, which is debt-based, and they are paying taxes on the use of your human energy, and it's all tracked via the original issue discount system. So what they tell you on the internet, what it tells you on AI is incomplete. It tells you that if you're trading securities, you may be able to reclaim overpayment of federal taxes on those trades or those securities trades. It doesn't tell you that the original issue discount system is predominantly what is tracking the taxes that are being paid by the nominees, the banks, for using your human energy, the signature credit, the deposits you put on the monopoly board. Huge amounts of taxes are being paid by the banks for the use of your human energy, and they pay taxes, which we'll come back to later, and it's calculated based upon the original issue discount calculation. The value of the energy goes on the board at zero. The future value is a deep negative. The difference between zero and a deep negative balance is the original issue discount. By the way, the original issue discount, if you went in and got $1 million mortgage, the original issue discount is the difference between zero, the creation of the ex nihilo signature that created the currency, and $1 million. That is the original issue discount. $1 million future value discounted back to zero. And taxes are being paid by the investment banks, the nominees, for using that $1 million debt, your energy. Remember the high street? If you had $1 million in your account and the banker said to you, hey, we can give you a loan, but first of all, transfer me $1 million from your account. I'll lend it back to you. And by the way, we charge interest on the loan. And we've all agreed that we'd never do it, but we've all been doing it. And the bankers are using your energy, and they have to pay taxes on the use of your energy, because guess what? The bankers as nominees are debtors. They're not creditors. And I can prove it. And I've just published a paper on our Telegram channel that proves it. I think I've published 3 that prove it so far. Next slide. And everything is negative. You see, what they've done is they inverted everything. You look in your bank account, you've got a credit balance. It's not got a minus in front of it, is it? You get a bill from the gas company, the electric company. It hasn't got a minus in front of it. But it's all debt. It's all negative. Everything is negative on this monopoly board. The only positive that to balance the negative is not on the monopoly board. It's the creditors. It's the energy of the people. Or everything on the board is negative. Everything. People say, oh, you know, I've got this house, it's worth this much. No, it's not. It's not only is it a negative value, but it is registered to the state. They hold the legal title and they've mortgaged that legal title to create the money system. So on 2 counts, people who think they've got a high value house have got 0. They've got the use of the house, they've got the equitable title, and the actual value of the house is a negative value. The value of everything on this monopoly board is negative, debt-based. Look at the world debt clock and it will be confirmed. Everything is a negative. Next slide. So that is what's going on with the monopoly board. And I could go into it in much, much deeper detail, as I have done with Andy on interviews, as I have done on previous webinars, as I have done in multiple technical papers on Ecclesia Law Institute. I go deep into these subjects and break them all down. If you're interested in the details, you can get into those research papers. And very, very soon, we're launching the Ian Clifford Avatar, which you'll be able to ask questions about everything, that all the research papers I've written, all of the webinars I've presented, all of the interviews I've done, all the Q&As I've done. It's got a huge knowledge base. And very soon you'll be able to interact with it and ask it anything you want. And it will be able to answer it based on all the knowledge base that I've loaded up into, I haven't done it, our IT team's done it, into the Avatar system. So let's now look at the solution, because I've been outlining how it works, how the monopoly board works. Now let's talk about the solution. And before I get into it, I'm going to repeat, not everybody in the world can do this. And the reason why is this. the investment banks, as nominees, as your fiduciaries, are paying taxes for using your energy, and they pay between $50 and $100 billion a year in taxes to the United States Treasury, the IRS, for using your energy. That is the budget that we've got to recoup, because we're not recouping the bank payments. We're not recouping the mortgage. We are recouping the taxes that the investment banks are paying for using your energy as debtors. The debtors pay taxes to the creditors. So what we're going to be talking about in this section is how you can redirect the taxes that belong to you as a creditor, and then what you can do with those taxes that you're redirecting, or we're redirecting within the Clifford Protocol. How you can use those taxes, which come back as fiat currency, as dollars, how you can spend and recoup again, spend and recoup again, over and over again, year by year. How you can use the Monopoly Game Changer to protect the assets, actually have assets, not the equitable title, but the true legal title. How you can operate a private treasury where you've recouped your signature credit energy, you're housing it in a private treasury, you're spending and recouping from that private treasury, you're getting rid of all of your debt, no mortgages, no loans, no credit cards, taxes, all of that can be discharged from your private treasury. You can then run your life from your private treasury, run your game of Monopoly from your private treasury. And every time there is an outflow of that from your private treasury, that is a new deposit. It's a new signature credit event, which you can then recoup the following year. So that's a pretty good game, yeah? That means that you don't need to stay in the job that you don't like, or running the business, which is a real challenge. You can recoup your signature energy, your credit, and draw it down as abandoned taxes from the age of 18. Just think of, what is your value? Is your value more than 3 million, less than 3 million? Try and figure it out as I'm talking. The value of your bank payments, the value of mortgages, loans, credit cards. I think a lot of people on here will be more than 3 million. That's what you've left on the table. Next slide. So the Monopoly Game Changer is made up of 3 protocols. The first protocol is the Envoy protocol. The Envoy protocol enables you, the living man, woman, to operate as the occupant of the office of the general executor of the decedent estate. I'll say that again because it's a bit of a mouthful. You, the living man or woman, can occupy the office of the general executor of the decedent estate, the person, the straw man, the birth certificate construct. Occupying that office cleans up a fraud. Every one of us, including me, has, since the age of 18 or 21, been holding ourselves out as if we were the birth certificate construct. You may still be doing it today. Somebody says, "What's your name?" You say, "My name is blah, blah, blah." You know, if somebody asked me many years ago, "Ian, what's your name? What's your full name?" I would have said, "Ian Clifford Stamp." I'd be wrong, because that is the name of the birth certificate construct. It is not my name. If you look in the law books, my name is Ian Clifford. The proper name is Ian Clifford, not Ian Clifford Stamp. The stamp is the name of the registered birth certificate construct, the decedent estate on the Monopoly board, the artificial construct of the birth certificate registered entity. And if you want to clean up the fact that we've all been holding ourselves out as if we were the birth certificate construct, then the Envoy protocol does that. It makes a declaration. A declaration is a very powerful thing. If you imagine a declaration of war, that's quite powerful, yeah? A declaration of standing is the declaration of two things. One is that you are alive. So the living man, woman is declaring they are alive, because the Monopoly board presumes that the living man or woman is lost across the seas, dead and lost across the seas, which is, you'll find that in the Sesquivay V Act of 1666 and 1707. So you're making a declaration of life, and you're also making a declaration that you are no longer going to operate as if you were the birth certificate construct. That doesn't mean that you can't use the birth certificate construct. You can, but you will be using it having occupied the office of the general executor of the decedent estate, because the decedent estate is operating in probate. It's a trust. It's an estate. It's not real. It's an artificial construct, and you can clean it all up with the Envoy protocol, which, by the way, enables you to more easily recoup the signature credit, the taxes on the signature credit, as the Envoy protocol paves the way for you, the living man, woman, to be the beneficiary of a trust, which we'll talk about in a minute, that is going to redirect the taxes, and as the general executor, or occupying the office of the general executor, makes that process more robust. The next protocol is the Asset Fortress protocol. It is an international grantor trust, or a foreign grantor's trust. It has its own reference number from the United States Treasury. It is what's called an EIN number. The EIN number is specifically for a foreign grantor's international trust. It can sit on the artificial monopoly board as a creditor entity. And it also can operate a private treasury. A private treasury is a bank account connected to the trust. So instead of having a bank account in the name of the birth certificate construct, the person, the straw man, you still keep all those if you want them, but the Asset Fortress protocol has a bank account. It is a trust bank account. When you receive your signature credit recoupments, they will be transferred to that bank account. You can then use that bank account, which in most cases, unless you choose otherwise, will be the name that you want to go by. So my birth certificate name is Ian Clifford, not mine, the birth certificate name is Ian Clifford Stamp. I go by Ian Clifford. My 98 series grantor trust, the Asset Fortress protocol, is called the Ian Clifford Trust. So you would have the same, or whatever name you want to give it, and it has a bank account, and your signature credit tax rebates, recoupments, go into that Asset Fortress protocol as your private treasury for you to use on the monopoly board, spend, and when you spend from that Asset Fortress protocol, your signature is being used to spend, to issue new promises to pay in the future, new deposits onto the monopoly board, which then qualify in the next year for a recoupment, a tax redirection. So you do that every year, spend and recoup. And the Asset Fortress protocol can also hold assets, the legal title to assets, not the equitable title, which everybody has. If you look at your documents you've got for your car, for your house, for your business, for your company, whatever it is, what you actually have is the equitable title, the ability to use the asset. That is equitable title. legal title is true ownership. When you operate under the international grant or trust of the Asset Fortress Protocol, you can transfer the legal title to assets. You take it out of the bankruptcy and out of the mortgage that is currently being held by the bankruptcy trustee, the United States Treasury. You can take away their lien, their mortgage over those assets, and you can transfer the legal title into the Asset Fortress Protocol. So it is two things. It is an asset fortress and a private treasury, meaning you can use it to navigate your way around the monopoly board, spend and recoup. You can keep all your other bank accounts if you still want to use them, but your private treasury is how you're going to finance your game of Monopoly going forward. And by the way, the Asset Fortress Protocol is not constrained by digital ID track and trace. So that is a really big solution. And any asset that you transfer into it is no longer registered to the state. There are some situations where it's difficult, and it may even be impossible to transfer every single asset, like houses and land, into the Asset Fortress. But there are ways of doing it. I have done a webinar on this. I have written a research paper on this. And I'm not going to go into it in huge detail here because it will take us too long. The third and probably arguably the most important protocol in this bundle, in this Monopoly game changer, is the currency creation, which is the following the methodology which I call the Clifford Protocol. There are research papers on it. You can ask the avatar any question you like about it. You can read the papers, you can go on the avatar, you'll be able to go into interviews that I've done with Andy, where we've broken it down deeply, how it works, why it's lawful, why every component of it gets through the IRS's, United States Treasury's algorithmic blocking system. I wrote a paper a few days ago, I published it on the Telegram channel, about how the Clifford Protocol ticks all of the IRS boxes, and no algorithmic hold or freeze applies. And I've broken it all down in step-by-step journey through that paper. You'll completely understand or comprehend why in 2025 we got 600 million of confirmed IRS recoupments because of the way the Clifford Protocol is designed. Next slide. So the Envoy Protocol is how you clean up the estate, the birth certificate estate. But it is not a methodology where you can go around and not be responsible for the birth certificate construct. It does not sever the agency. It cleans it up. So a lot of people out there think that you can sever the ties between the living man and woman and the birth certificate construct, the person. You can't. All you can do is clean it up. You, as the living man, woman, can occupy the office of the general executor, which means that you regain control of the decedent estate. At the moment, you are operating the decedent estate as what's known as the executor de son tort, the executor of all the wrongs. So at the moment, unless you have already done the Envoy Protocol, you are operating as the living man, woman, as the agent for the birth certificate construct, and you are known in the system as the executor de son tort, the executor of the wrongs. And that standing that you currently have, unless you've done the Envoy Protocol, takes away all of your rights on the monopoly board. Every living man, woman who is operating as an executor de son tort has no rights whatsoever on the monopoly board, which is why people never win in courtrooms, because they're operating as a debtor, they're operating in fraud, because they're using the name, holding themselves out, using the name that doesn't belong to them, and they are operating as the executor de son tour. I've written research papers on this subject as well, if you're interested in that. It's mostly misunderstood by millions of people around the world who think that you can sever the tie to the birth certificate, or you can hold up the birth certificate in a courtroom and hand it to a judge and say, that's not me, put the birth certificate construct into jail, that bit of paper, and let me go free. It does not work. And I've gone into great detail on interviews as to why. Next slide. The Asset Fortress, as I mentioned on the previous slide, this is your private treasury. Every wealthy family I used to work with a lot of them, they're called private offices or family offices. They have a treasury. It's a trust bank account. They run all of their finances through a trust bank account. The royal family has a private treasury. That's what you can have with the Asset Fortress Protocol, a private treasury. All of the assets that you want to transfer in, where it is possible to do so, you can actually have actual legal title ownership within the Asset Fortress Protocol, meaning that there is no taxes on your own trust assets. So if you transfer your property in there, the state can't tax it anymore. Why? Because at the moment, the property, they hold the legal title, which means that they can tax it because it belongs to them. They're taxing you as the equitable title holder because you're renting the property from them. Even though you might believe you own it, you don't. So what you can do is you can remove the debt by recouping your signature credit, discharge the debt, and if it is possible, and I go into it in detail on my research paper, you can transfer the legal title into the Asset Fortress Protocol. It doesn't work in every scenario. There are situations where it doesn't work, where you can only transfer the equitable title. But if you're able to transfer the legal title, you have now removed the mortgage and the registration of the asset from the bankruptcy, and you put it in your private trust, your foreign grantors Asset Fortress Protocol Trust. But the main thing you're going to do with this trust is you're going to receive your recoupments into it, and you're going to spend up to the limit of the recoupments, and then you're going to recoup back again in annual cycles. Private treasury bank account. Next slide. And the currency creation is the Clifford Protocol. It's all broken down in my research papers, as I've mentioned. It's I actually left a message for somebody this morning who'd been asking me some questions about it. I think over the 42 years that I've been solving complex problems, I think this is it. This is the best one I've ever solved. The currency creation, the ex nihilo credit, the rebate or recoupment of taxes, how the whole process works, all the steps of it, and the fact that it's not, as far as I know, it's not available anywhere else. I think it is unique. If it is available anywhere else, I can't find it. It's verified to work. 600 million of recoupments in 2025. Our budget, remember, is between 50 and 100 billion a year of redirection of taxes from the currency creation model, which is based upon the protocol called the Clifford Protocol. If you want to go into depth about how it all works, play the interview that I've just done with Andy yesterday. It's on the ROS Media channel. And I think I've copied a link to it in our Telegram channel, our playing a game of Monopoly Telegram channel. We go into it in depth, step by step. If you're interested in detail, it's all in that interview. Next slide. So there are 5 steps to the Clifford Protocol. The very, very first step is that we have to find your signature event. So when you made a bank payment, when you signed up for a mortgage, loan or credit card, there is a record of that signature being used by the banks. The IRS, the United States Treasury, they have a system called the IRMF system. It tracks every single signature credit entity or event, I should say. So it doesn't matter when you did that. You could go back 40, 50 years ago, and they will have a record because there was a digital system. When the digital system came in, they started tracking signature credit. When I say they, I mean the United States Treasury, because they are the bankruptcy trustee. They have to know where all the signature credit is being created. They have a whole network across the entire world of all the banks. They know exactly what is going on. There's a 26-digit reference number that tracks all of the signature credit from its issue, whenever that was, all the way through until the taxes that the investment bank is paying for the use of that signature credit. So we have to find it, and we use an AI system to find it. We then use an AI system to calculate the amount of taxes that have been paid by the investment banks, the nominees, because they're using your credit as nominees and paying taxes on it. And then the Clifford Protocol will enable your trust. You have actually 2 trusts in this process. You have the tax filing foreign grantors trust, which is the trust that files tax returns, notably the 1099 OID and what's called a 1041. Those tax returns are done for you by a professional licensed tax preparer with what's called an ERO license. You cannot do this without a professional tax preparer license and electronic filing software that is already, where the signature credit is already being tracked by our AI system from the moment it was created to the taxes that are being paid on it by the investment banks. When the 1099 OIDs are filed by the tax preparer through the electronic filing system, it all has to match. If there's any error anywhere, the recoupment may not work. It may be blocked by the IRS algorithms. I've explained it all with the interview I did with Andy yesterday. All broken down. So there's 5 steps end up in redirection of the taxes that belong to the foreign grantors trust that made the filings, and it's a redirection of taxes. It's one corporate entity to another, one nominee to another. The banks that are using your signature credit are nominees, and you can recoup back to another nominee. The other nominee is a 98 series or a foreign grantors trust that is going to file the 1099 OID with a tax preparer license, a tax preparer ERO license to do it, having already tracked all of the signature credit energy, having tracked it from the moment it was created to the taxes being paid on it. And there have to be sufficient taxes paid by the investment bank as a nominee. They have to be equal to or greater than the population of 1099 OIDs filed by our members' grantor trusts. If their taxes that the investment bank is paid are incompatible, they're insufficient, then we have to move the trustee, which is also a very pivotal part of the process. The nominated trustee, which is MLITR Research, will move the taxes from other tax modules of the investment bank onto what's called the 945 tax module, which is the module where the recoupments and the redirection of taxes originates from. It's all in the interview. It's all in my research papers. Next slide. Now, a lot of people have said to me over the years, Ian, we really want to do these protocols. We really want to get on board with this, but we simply don't have the budget to do it. Is there anything you can do to help us? Now, what I've done in the last few weeks is introduce two reward schemes. One is for webinars and the other is for the avatar, the use of the avatar. So let me give you an example. Let's imagine that you wanted to proceed with the Clifford Protocol, all three of those protocols I've just explained, but you were tight for budget, right? Because we asked for a donation to our ministry to get the three protocols facilitated. Some people say, why do you need a donation, Ian? And the reason is because we have a very large team of people that is working on this and everything else associated with it. We have over 50 full-time contractors working on this in multiple countries to make it work for you. They don't work for free. And because of the events that happened last year, which I'll come to in a minute, we need donations in order to finance our operation until Signature Credit Recoupment comes in, and we then will be able to finance the nation with the share of Signature Credit Recoupment. So if you were in a position where you wanted to proceed, but you just don't have the budget to do it, to make the donation. And by the way, I can't tell you what the donation is because it is tailored to your Signature Credit Recoupment value. It's not the same for everybody. Everybody's got a different amount of signature credit that they're looking to recoup. The donation is linked to the value of the Signature Credit Recoupment. Your value is different from my value, different from Andy's value, different from everybody else's value on this webinar. So it is tailored to that. You are able to make a donation. If you can't finance it, it can be discounted right down to a very, very minimal level. The amount of donation you make on the back end is increased, but then you recoup that increase on the back end. So you don't lose anything. But if you still couldn't finance the very minimal upfront donation, you were able to earn webinar rewards. It should actually say $100 on there. It's a typo. It's not £100. It's $100. And you're able to earn that by referring people to come and watch my webinars. Everyone that is referred to watch a webinar who attends it for more than 70% of the webinar, you will earn $100 to set off against the donation to enroll. Everybody that you refer to my avatar, the Ian Clifford avatar, everyone you refer to that, you will also earn $100 in rewards points. Now, you can't earn $200 by somebody coming to the webinar and using the avatar. You can only earn one lot of $100. So they either come to the webinar and you earn it in your digital wallet, or they use the avatar and you earn it, but you can't earn it twice. So if you were to introduce 10, either watching the webinars or using the avatar, that's $1,000 that you can set off against the enrollment donation required. Many people, I believe, will enroll for free with no upfront donation at all by referring their network of contacts to the avatar. And by the way, they have to spend more than 10 minutes on the avatar. They can't just click on it and you get $100. They have to engage with it. And that is the qualification. The same as the webinar, they have to stay for at least 70% of the webinar. It is my guess that many people will spend hours on the avatar because it's a whole library of knowledge. It is also my guess, and as has been the experience, that most people, when they come to the webinars, they come back. There's a very, very high repeat of people that come. and a very good, attendance level as well. Next slide. So this is the avatar. It's going to be made available very, very soon. I thought we were going to make it available today. There's a little bit more work that needs to be done to it. It will be released next week. You can use it to introduce people. You can just send them your link and they can engage with it. And we know that it's you that sent it. And if you are an advocate, you can use it to introduce people through your advocate program, which I think is going to be the easiest way to introduce people if you are an advocate. By the way, it remembers all the conversations. So every user, it will remember the conversation that they've already had with it. So it's like talking to me and I'm remembering what we've already spoken about in previous sessions. It's very sophisticated. I think it is a game changer in its own right. Next slide. We had 600 million confirmed. Andy, you had yours, I had mine, hundreds of others of our members.
Yep.
Got verified recoupments. You might want, I don't know if you've got your transcripts there, but
I can do one better than that. I can actually share some, Ian. We've got some copies of redacted transcripts. If you want to put them on screen, happy to do that.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Why not?
Let me show you guys what I'm talking about here. So I'm just going to come back to you and I'm going to share my screen. Now, you may have seen these if you've watched a video with myself and another colleague of mine here at the Republic of Old Souls, which is Ange, who has been with us since the day we started pretty much. And she's been through all these different processes in terms of technicalities of putting it all together, including how the filing systems actually work. So she understands this as well, right from filings and EINs and all that good stuff. So these are copies of actual verified transcripts, okay? These first two that you can see on this wooden table, these are a couple of our transcripts. We have the actual physical copies here. So these are I've just photographed them. And what I've done is I've put a little lens over them there that you can see here. So you can see the amount a little bit better. So there's a couple of our own just from one filing year. There's a smaller one here. But then what you need to understand is that we're not talking about small amounts. There's one here for just over 2 million, 1.8, 3.7, 3.7, a small one there at 18,000, 22.5 million, 78,000. The list goes on. We've got, as Ian said, over 600 million in confirmed. This is just a snapshot of a few redacted, obviously, for privacy purposes, just so that you guys can see that this is real. These are verified from tax year 2022 and 2023, directly sent to us from the IRS. Back to you, Ian.
Yeah, and now, a lot of people will be saying or thinking, if they don't know, why didn't that materialize? And the reason why is because it was sabotaged by ex-members of our team. We call them the pirate faction. If we can go back to the PowerPoint, I think we've got a slide on it. So in September of 2025, a pirate faction, and I've done long interviews on this, I've justified it, I've explained it endlessly, I've written documents on it. There was a very good reason why this pirate faction sabotaged the recoupments. I'm not going to go into it all on this webinar. If you want to know all about it, I've done interviews on it, you can go on RS Media. Andy and I have done interviews on the whole subject. It's nothing to do with the actual process itself. It was to do with a rogue fiduciary who stole 1.5 million of our reserve and tried to undermine the entire organization so that she could get away with the 1.5 million that she stole, which is, by the way, in a court case in New York right now. It's going on in New York, or the court case is lodged in New York right now. As I say, I'm not going to go into all the detail because the recoupments were verified. If you read my research papers, the wages and tax transcript means that it's gone through all of the IRS's algorithmic systems, and it's confirmed as a legitimate redirection of taxes. We were just about to draw this down for our members, and there was about $1.5 billion in progress. All of it was undermined by a group of pirate rogue trustees that we used to work with. They had reasons to do it, which I've gone into on the interview with Andy, and it meant that we had to refile and recreate because we tried to rescue this at the back end of 2025. And the ERO, that's the Electronic Reporting Officer, the guy who holds the filing license, the tax preparer license, he had to surrender his license because this whole event, as reported by him, went into a federal investigation, which is currently going on against the pirates who undermined it. Many of them will go to jail because the process was 100% legitimate. The tax preparer, who is also the head of the trustee group, MLITR Research, he and I worked together and filed a federal complaint against the pirates. It's currently being investigated at the federal level. There is all sorts of misdemeanors in there by the pirates. Many of them will do at least 2 years in jail because of what they did. Nothing at all to do with whether the process works, doesn't work. It was to do with how they undermined it for their own nefarious, very greedy reasons. The good news is that the tax preparer license was re-granted just recently. And that's the announcement that I made within the last, I think it was last week. It was put out on the Telegram channel. Andy and I did an interview on it because it vindicates the Clifford Protocol. The IRS have reissued the tax preparer license back to the same ERO tax preparer that filed all of the recoupments 1099 OIDs in 2025. There is absolutely no way that the IRS would reinstate the license if there was anything at all wrong with the Clifford Protocol. That was the breaking news that I sent out on the Telegram channel in last week. Now that means that if you are one of the members that was in this group where you had received a wages and tax transcript from 2025, there was 600 million received, as Andy mentioned. We are working on how to release that to you. In addition to that, you can go back to the age of 18 and recoup additional signature credit recoupments, tax recoupments from age 18, in addition to what you were expecting in 2025 from your wages and tax transcript. Pretty good news, yeah? Next slide. So I don't know what your value is. If you want to find out, we have a calculator which you will be able to navigate with one of our consultants, breaking it all down, making it as easy as possible for you to estimate the value of your signature credit. You're not going to know exactly. Nobody knows, nobody I've ever met knows exactly what their bank payments were from the age of 18. Many people know what the value of their mortgages were, the face value of their mortgages. Many people know the value of their loans, credit cards, although some people don't know their credit cards. you have to estimate it. Be a little bit cautious, be a little bit conservative on your estimates. But in all of those that have already been through this process of evaluating the value of their signature credit, it's around about 3 million as the average. Yours may be more, yours may be less. It depends on your age. If you're 19 years of age and you're on this webinar, you've only got 1 year of signature credit going onto the Monopoly board. If you're my age, 60, you've got 42 years of signature credit. So, you know, that obviously mine is going to be higher because I've been playing Monopoly for longer. And yours may be higher or lower depending on what you've done. You may have been very prolific, like I was, playing a lot of Monopoly. You may have had 1 mortgage. You may have had 50 mortgages. You may be a landlord. Add all those face value of mortgages together. That is what we're talking about. Mortgages, loans, credit cards, bank payments that have left your personal account or your business account, or both, depending on whether you've ever run a business. Next slide. So if you are an existing member and you want to upgrade, book in a consultation. They'll help you, the consultants will help you calculate the amount of the signature credit from age 18, in addition to what you were expecting in 2025. This isn't either or, it's in addition. If you are a new member or you haven't already started the Monopoly Game Changer, book in a consultation. They'll walk you through it. They'll calculate how much you're able to recoup and answer questions in relation to the Monopoly Game Changer. You'll also be able to engage with the avatar. We'll be sending the avatar link to everybody that's attended the webinar early next week. So you'll also be able to engage with that, and you'll be able to get the calculation of the value of your signature credit by having the consultation with one of our consultants. Next slide. Now, if you imagine, as I mentioned right at the outset, that you've got the winning lottery ticket and you're actually going to go and claim it. And then next year, you're going to claim another one and another one and another one. That is what this is about. You recoup your signature credit. It goes into your private treasury. You spend it out of your private treasury. That creates new signature credit tax rebates for the following year. You do that year in, year out. It's life-changing. It's absolutely lawful. It's exactly how the system is being built. And I don't know anybody who wouldn't want to do it. I personally don't know anybody who wouldn't want to do it if they understood what the opportunity is. Maybe we'll find out in a minute how many people want to do it. Let's, next slide.
All right. So we're on to the top 7 questions, first of all. And we, as Ian said, we are going to be doing some polls today as well. We've got 3 polls to run by you guys to get some feedback. But let's go through these questions. We've had a number of questions in the chat. Been answering as many of those as I can, guys. Remember that we do a Q&A every week as well. So any questions that don't get answered from when you registered, we collect all of those questions together. I've been making a note of questions on my pad here at the side as well from the chat, and we will add those into the list and they will be answered when I do the Q&A with Ian. So let's look at the top 7 though so far. Is this process legal? And why haven't professional accountants or lawyers ever mentioned HJR 192 or the Clifford Protocol? It's a good question.
You could have asked me about it, 15 years ago or 10 years ago even. And I would have said, I've no idea. I've never heard of it. It probably isn't real. I've never heard of HJR 192. I did 7 years of advanced financial qualifications I got, and it's not in any of the course material. If you go on AI or go on the internet and ask it, is HJR 192, and it might even tell you it's been repealed. But if you go and read it, it says it's a permanent order. and it is permanent reorganization. Is it real? 100% real. If it wasn't real, why would the IRS issue 600 million of confirmed wages and tax transcripts? Why would they have issued checks in 2024 in our pilot scheme that we ran, where multiple checks came out and people cashed them in, have spent them, and have never had them clawed back? So, you know, it's real. It's 100% real. The so-called professionals don't know about it because it's not in any course. I can assure you. I did accounting courses. I did money management, asset management courses. I did trustee courses. I did all sorts of things. It's not in any of them because they don't want the slaves to know about it. And that is why the so-called professionals don't know about it, because the professionals, if they all knew about it, they'd have a major choice to make. Do they stay as an accountant, or do they give it up and do their signature credit recruitment? You wouldn't have any professionals out there keeping the slaves under control, because if they all knew how it worked, I think a lot of them would give up being accountants, quite honestly.
Okay. So next question. Can you explain the specific mechanics of how my signature on a bank application actually creates new credit out of nothing?
Well, if you were to imagine that you went to dinner, it's like a networking event, and it's like you have a dinner and you have a table, all the people on the table, and you sat there and you don't know anybody, and then, you know, everyone has to say what they do, and everybody else on the table said they were a banker. So you've just been looking into this, right? So you ask all the bankers on your table. I'm a bit intrigued about how does a mortgage get, how is it created? And the bankers are going to tell you, well, it's easy. What we do is we take deposits from our customers, and then we lend them out and we charge interest. And you would go, well, that sounds very logical, but I'm a bit more advanced than that. Don't you create credit ex nihilo? And I'll tell you what, the bankers will not know what you're talking about. They do not know. I've spoken to many of them. So the mechanics of it are basically that the signature is a transfer of energy, and that the event of the signature, the banks take it in on their balance sheet. So they have a balance sheet. It's all negative, but they take in your deposit, your signature deposit, and they create a matching liability on the other side of their balance sheet. This is abandoned. That is the debt that they created. That debt is put on the board at zero, has a high future value. They sell this debt to the investment banks in what's called securitization. I think, Andy, you watched The Big Short recently, didn't you? And that's a very good movie to watch.
Yeah. If you haven't watched that, guys, you really need to watch that. I think it was on Netflix. It's Brad Pitt and Ryan Gosling talking about the sort of 2008, 2009 crash with mortgages. But incredible how they take all of these things and just bundle them all into bonds and add QSIPs. And there's layer upon layer upon layer as well. They talk about synthetic CDOs and all sorts of stuff in there. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. Well, the investment bankers, that's what they do. They trade human energy. And, you know, how does it work? Well, you sign something. Your bank account is a signature. Your mortgage contract is a signature. Loan, credit card, it's all signature. That deposits your energy onto the board when you make the signature. The banks create a matching liability, ex nihilo. They then sell that because it has a very high future value. They sell it to the investment banks. The investment banks bundle it up. The securities, they bundle them up as exactly what they do in the movie The Big Short. They trade them. That's what's called hypothecation. They expand the value of that debt. They make a lot of profit, even though the profit is negative. It's still a profit in the game of Monopoly. And the astonishing discovery I made within the last 6 months is the fact that they are paying taxes on the 945 tax module for the use of your energy. And when you track it all through, and our AI system tracks it from the moment it was created your signature, all the way through until the investment bank's payer modules, their 945 modules, and everything in between. It's basically a very sophisticated system it's the IRS system called the IRMF system, tracks it all. RAI system tracks it all. It's predominantly that. Then you've got a professional license holder filing the 1099 OID. You've got to create a foreign grantors trust as a nominee on the Monopoly Board. It does not work unless you've got a foreign grantors trust filing the 1099 OIDs electronically with all of the right credentials and footprint of knowledge behind it. It will not work if you just file 1099 OID as a taxpayer. The nominee, a grantor trust, is what's called the holder in due course. It is the creditor. It is entitled to the redirection of taxes. And once the IRS see that, it's electronically filed. They see that it is a creditor entity, a nominee entity filing for the redirection of the taxes. Then they issue the wages and tax transcript. Then the trust and the trustee and the electronic reporting officer files the 1041. That is then created into what's called Trias 310, which is a electronic system for the IRS and the Treasury to transfer the recoupment via what's called ACH or Fedwire, electronic transfers into the grantor trust that filed for the redirection of the taxes from that trust into the Asset Fortress Trust, available for the private treasury, your private treasury, to spend and recoup. That's how it works. That's the short version. It's all in my research papers. I go into it in a lot more detail if you're interested in the detail.
We've definitely done a longer version together. If you want to go to the ROS Media platform, you'll see that about 90 minutes where we break everything down, including that 26-digit alphanumeric number and everything in between. So next question, Ian, is if I successfully recoup the 3 million from my history since age 18, can I use that credit to immediately discharge or pay off an existing mortgage?
Well, one of the best ways to play Monopoly at the advanced level is to recoup your signature credit from the age of 18, and then use that to discharge your debts and your taxes, your mortgages, your loans, your credit cards. We also are making available in the near future an avatar and an AI system which will assist you in voiding your mortgage, because your mortgage, every mortgage on the planet is void. Because of what my discovery, this 26-digit reference number is the reference number that proves that the banks are debtors to you, and that voids your mortgage. But if you don't want to go down that pathway and you want to wait for your signature credit recoupment to come in from, you know, the value from age 18, then you can, from your private treasury, discharge the mortgages, loans, credit cards, taxes. And then guess what? That discharge is the issuance of new signature credit onto the Monopoly Board, which you then recoup in the next year. So you can completely transform your, your game of Monopoly. You end up with no debt because you've recouped your signature credit. You've used your private treasury to discharge the debts, which are mortgage, loans, credit cards, taxes, anything. And then you recoup the discharge, because the discharge is the issuance of new signature credit onto the Monopoly Board, which you then recoup in the following tax year.
Okay. So next question. What happened with the pirate faction in 2025? And what specific measures are now in place to ensure that our transcripts are safe and restored? That's a good one.
It's a very good question, and I've gone into it in great detail. Basically, we had 36 trustees in the United States, trustees that were all members of the organization of our Private Members Association, and the head of the pirate faction was desperately in debt, couldn't wait for recoupment, stole 1.5 million of our reserve. with fake trusts and all sorts of things. It was a very, very sophisticated fraud. She, Amy Sanger, managed to convince the trustees that were all reporting to her that because of the attempted jailing of me, of Ian Clifford in 2025, that somehow the Clifford Protocol was unlawful and that they cancelled their participation as trustees by filing fraud identity reports with the IRS, meaning that the trustees claimed that their name had been used in fraud. That was a smokescreen to cover up the fact that Amy Sanger stole 1.5 million of our reserve. She thought she was going to get away with it because she thought that Ian Clifford, me, was going to go to jail because of the FCA's sentence. Well, she didn't realize that the sentence and the order, it's called Order 34, 2023, was void from the outset. She didn't realize that it's got absolutely nothing to do with the Clifford Protocol, whether it works or whether it doesn't. It's all done through professionals. You've got a professional tax preparer. You've got an electronic filing system. What we've now got is a MLITR research, which is a legitimate legitimate trustee that is no longer going to be at the whim of individuals that are unprofessional like we had before. The pirate trustees, they weren't all pirates to begin with. They were converted into pirates by Amy Sanger. What they believed was that they were going to get themselves into trouble because of the Ian Clifford sentence. That's what they were sold. That's the story they were sold by Amy Sanger. It's complete bullshit. There's no merit or substance to any of it. They're all now under federal investigation. They filed fraud identity reports, which is called wire fraud in the United States, because you send something in the mail that you know to be a lie. That is called wire fraud. You go to jail for 2 years minimum for wire fraud. They all did it. And at the same time is they used the tax preparer license without authority because they thought they could carry on with their recoupments, basically undermining all of our members, but carrying on with their own by using the tax preparer license, software license, which is, again, it's called RICO fraud. They were defrauding the United States Treasury because they had no right to use the tax preparer license. He didn't give them any permission to use it. That is what is going on with the pirate faction. There is a federal investigation into them. There is 39 of them. And I wouldn't like to be in their shoes, I can tell you.
Absolutely not. Okay, next one, Ian. What are the actual risks of filing a 1099 OID? And how do we prevent the IRS or banks from flagging our accounts or retaliating?
Well, the banks don't lose anything, right? So they are paying taxes for the use of human energy. They don't have to pay any more tax. They don't lose anything. And in fact, they probably won't even know that the signature credit tax on their 945 modules is being redirected because it's with the United States Treasury. They've already paid it to the United States Treasury. The banks aren't compromised in any way whatsoever. There's never going to be any retaliation from banks if you are recouping or redirecting the taxes on the signature credit, because the banks, it makes no difference to them at all. This is all being done at the United States Treasury, not being done with the banks. The banks won't even know about it. And it makes no difference to them, even if they did know about it. Will the IRS, will they retaliate? No. I've written a whole research paper on why the Clifford Protocol will not bankrupt the United States Treasury. Even if they recouped and redirected 100 billion a year of redirected taxes, it makes no difference to the United States Treasury. Why? Because they operate on an ex nihilo basis with the Federal Reserve. If you look at the United States, the alleged national debt, because it's way more than they say it is. They say it's about 40 trillion. I say it's about 80 to 100 trillion. and so do many others. That's all ex-nihilo credit creation. They do not need to raise taxes to finance anything. It's a complete misnomer. You and I, Andy, I think we've talked about this a lot on our interviews. Taxes are not required to finance anything apart from the interest on the debt.
Yep.
The governments don't use taxes to fools. It's completely misleading, deliberately to keep you in slavery. They use ex-nihilo credit creation. So does the United States Treasury. So does the Federal Reserve. They don't need to raise taxes, but they do raise taxes against the 945 module because that's how the system was designed. All part of the House Joint Resolution 192.
All right. So next one, what is the realistic timeline? We've had a multitude of people in the chat asking the same question. So what is the realistic timeline for a new member to see their first successful spend and recoup cycle completed?
Well, we can evidence how long it took in 2025. The grantor trusts were created in January, February. The 1099 OIDs were filed in February, March. This is for 3,000 that we did in 2025. The first wages and tax transcripts came in June of 2025. The sabotage event happened in September 2025. We were waiting for the recoupment to hit the ACH and Fedwire rails, but then the sabotage event happened. So if you start now, you can reasonably expect recoupments into your private treasury between 6 and 9 months from now. I've broken it down, and there's another research paper on the Ecclesia Law website, the Institute website, which breaks down the steps of the process and how long they all take. And Andy and I have also done an interview on it, which you can find on the ROS Media channel.
Absolutely. All right, last one here. Are the 100, says £100, I know it's $100. Are the $100 webinar rewards paid out in spendable cash, or are they only applicable as credits towards the protocol fees and the trust upgrades?
Well, let me clear this up, right? So we're not paying people to make referrals $100 to make a referral. We're not distributing $100 to every referral that comes in or every person making a referral. What we're doing is we're creating a digital wallet which will credit those $100 amounts because we're trying, and I think it's going to work really well, to expand our community by word of mouth. Our social media channels are all shadow banned. They're all constrained because the slave masters do not want you to know what I've explained to you today. They just don't. So the best way we can grow our nation is through word of mouth, which is why I've introduced the webinar awards and the avatar awards scheme. The credit you get goes into a digital wallet that you can use and set against to discount future protocols. We're not just talking about the Monopoly Game Changer that you can offset these credits against. You can offset them against energy protocols, communication protocols, health protocols, travel protocols, water protocols. All of these things are coming in the future. This is the independent nation that I mentioned earlier on. There will be many, many more protocols that we will launch for our envoys and our members. You can use the rewards points to set off against and discount down the donations required to enroll in those future protocols.
Okay. So we have come to that moment, guys. We're going to do some polls. And we've got 3. So let me just come away from the chat for a second. I will bring up the polls and we can start to go through these together. So the very first one, just like we did with that earlier poll where we kind of did one on the fly, we've got 3 already lined up. So the first one is, do you want a consultation to discover how to proceed with the Monopoly Game Changer protocol? So if you can, I know it says on here A, B, and C. But in actual fact, you'll see on the actual polls, it says 1, 2, and 3. So if you can type, these are numerical polls. So if you can type a 1, 2, or a 3, do not type ABC. It will not register. So if you can type a 1, 2, or a 3 when I start the poll. Come on, guys. We've got a lot of you on here. It would be good if you could participate in some volume. Creeping up a little bit now. This is better. I'm going to give it 10 more seconds. And then we'll close that poll down and we'll go on to the next one. Oh my goodness, we're still creeping up. All right, we're going to wrap this up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I am stopping that poll right now. Okay. I'm just making a note, Ian, so we don't miss anybody out. Okay, so let's hide that one. And let's go to the next poll, which is if you've received an IRS wages and tax transcript in 2025, so that would mean you are part of the 600 million. Now, just to clarify that, I've had a lot of questions in the comments. How do I know whether I've received a transcript? I haven't got one of those pieces of paper like you have. The way that you will know is if you go into your members platform and you look at your journey page, you will see everything listed out in the journey, and there will be a tax transcript section there. If you click on that and you have confirmation that you've got a tax transcript for one of those years, it will say so in your journey page. Okay, you don't have to have one of these faxes from the IRS to confirm that. We will know, the filing team will know, it'll be in your journey page. Okay, so if you are one of those 600 million, the question is, do you want to upgrade and also include signature credit recoupment going back to the age of 18? So I'm going to launch that poll now. Again, please type a 1, 2, or a 3 in the chat when I launch it. Don't do an A, B, or C. And we'll leave that up for about 60 seconds. Here we go. All right, the numbers are creeping up a little bit faster this time, so we've got more of you contributing a little bit quicker, which is good. And again, if you need more information, let us know. You know, if you're not quite sure and you need more information, we can point you in the right direction as to where to find that. You know, for example, one of the questions that we had today was, what information do you need to be able to recoup back to the age of 18? And that's a very valid question. You know, a lot of people are thinking, I don't know what I had going back to the age of 18, but it's not as difficult as you think, guys. It really isn't. So I'll leave this open for a few more seconds. Maybe you could answer that, Ian, while we're waiting for everybody to finish the poll. What do they need?
You need to remember which bank providers that you, bank account providers, which mortgage providers, loan, credit card providers, and roughly speaking, you know, no one's going to know for sure, you know, to the penny. But you need to just break it down. That's what the consultants are going to do with you. They're going to walk you through a calculator where they're going to establish which bank providers you had, which years, roughly the amounts, which you're based on your estimate that went through. And one of the ways that I think they're doing it is looking at roughly what your wages were. You know, if your wages or your profits were. Most people can remember what they were earning. Not everybody, but you can estimate it. Be a little bit conservative. Don't go stupid, because you know our system does track it anyway. So we really just need the bank accounts, the name of the bank account provider, the name of the mortgage provider, the name of the credit card loan provider, and the year that you think that you had these accounts, or in the range of years, because our system will find it. All we need is the names of banks and the rough amounts, and our system will find everything else.
So hopefully that's not quite so daunting for you. If that's the question you've been asking. Okay, I'm going to close this poll down. Thank you for voting, guys. Let's stop that, and let's go on to the last one, which is if you're not already doing signature credit recoupment, do you want to do it as part of the Monopoly Game Changer protocol? So this would be for, again, an existing member here who is maybe doing other protocols, not doing signature credit recoupment back to the age of 18. I know, again, we've had questions in the chat. What if I'm not part of the 600 million? How can I, take advantage of the signature credit recoupment? You don't have to be part of that 600 million confirmed to be doing signature credit recoupment. Everybody can do that. So I'm going to launch that poll again. If you can comment a 1, 2, or a 3 in the chat and let us know if you do want to add that in, then now's the time to vote. There you go. So this is for those of you who ideally don't have a transcript confirmation. We just want to kind of look at who's got one, who's not, and how many of you want to actually take advantage of signature credit recoupment. So if you've already voted on poll number 2 as a yes, please don't vote yes on this one as well, because that will kind of skew the numbers for us. We'll give it another 10 seconds, guys. So if you do want to vote, please do it now. And we're going to close that down right now. Thank you very much for voting.
Very good.
Okay. So, next steps, Ian.
Well, if you want help with calculating what your signature credit recoupment looks like from age 18, that's what the consultation is pretty much about. It's not there. I want to stress this. I've been reviewing a lot of the consultations that our team has had in the last few months. And a lot of people a lot of new members are basically using the session as like a Q&A session, and swamping our consultants with a whole range of questions, which are actually not much to do with signature credit, believe it or not. All sorts of other questions, all about different rabbit holes, freedom beliefs, and ideologies, and all manner of stuff. The consultation isn't about that. The consultation is to calculate your signature credit recoupment entitlement, and then find a package for you that fits your budget, because we have a program where you can come in at the standard donation, or you can discount it right down. And that's all explained on the consultation. If you want more details, then consult the avatar, which will come out next week. If you want more details and you like reading, go on Ecclesia Law Institute. You can download the PDFs. You can put them into what's called something like Speechify or any of the text-to-speech apps. You can get those read out to you, which a lot of people are starting to do. You can come to the ROS Media channel. Andy and I have done interviews on everything you could ever want to know about. And I will be, as bold as to say that I will know 10 times more than all of our consultants added together because I've been researching this for 10 years. Our consultants know a lot, but they do not know anywhere near as much as I know. So engage with the avatar, read the research papers if you want to read, or put them into an audio session. I think we're actually going to make audio available on the Ecclesia Law Institute. Come and listen to Andy and I's interviews about everything that you could ever want to know about this and many, many more subjects. But I think the avatar is going to be go-to.
I've learned a hell of a lot just from doing those interviews with you, to be fair, Ian, because I go through the technical reports before we do the interviews, and then we're just reiterating that and making sense of that on the interviews as well. So, if I find that beneficial, then I know you guys are going to find it beneficial too.
Yeah, so please don't bog our consultants down with all sorts of other subjects, which has been happening a bit in the more recent consultations. Their job is to try and establish for you what is the value of your signature credit, and then can we get you enrolled at a level that you're able to enroll, the donation level, or if not, what can we do to help you to enroll? We want to recruit 500,000. That's 500,000 envoys, members for our nation. I think that once many of you start receiving your recruitments, the floodgates are going to open up. And if I were you, I would want to be, want to be in the process already. I wouldn't want to be joining that massive queue of people that are going to want to get this off the ground in a few months' time, because the 600 million would have already paid out by now. And if we're successful in rescuing it, which I believe we've got a very good chance of doing, that could happen within the next 3 to 4 months. And then the floodgates are going to open up. And, we're going to be inundated with many, many thousands who want to go ahead at the same time. So if I were you, I would book a consultation, figure out how much signature credit you can recoup. If you can't do it right now, try and do it in, as quickly as you can. If there's any way, or if you really haven't got the budget, start using the avatar. Start referring people to watch, to get involved in the avatar. Start referring people to come to my webinars. I do one every Saturday. We're going to be maybe doing more than one a week, because there's lots and lots of subjects that I cover, and earn your reward points. That's my recommendation. That's your link. I think it's in the chat, isn't it, Andy? You can.
I am going to just put it all back in the chat as well. So I know I pinned it at the top, but we've had thousands of comments, literally well over 1,000 comments, especially with the polls as well. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm just going to grab that for you. And I'm going to put that into the chat right now so that you've got it. And then if we go quickly to the next slide, which is this one, you'll see all the links there as well.
Yeah, so we've got websites, we've got the media channel. There's some very good interviews on there, I think, breaking it all down step by step. The Ecclesia Law Institute, if you like reading, I know a lot of people don't, but you can download the documents that you're interested in, and you can get on your phone. You can get something called Speechify, which is free to use, and it will read back to you the research paper like an audiobook. If you want to do that, the avatar, as I said, is coming out next week. You'll be able to engage with that. And I think a lot of people will keep on engaging with that, because You can ask it to present to you this webinar, the highlights, you can basically ask it. It won't be able to on Monday because it would need to be loaded up, but within a few days, this webinar and all of its content will be in there. So you'll be able to ask it, that webinar that Ian did and Andy did on that day, can you give me the highlights? Can you summarize it? Can you answer my questions? In addition to that, Andy and I do a Q&A every week based upon the questions that come in from each webinar. And it's all on the ROS Media channel.
Yep. So I've taken a note of questions that you guys have been posting that we haven't actually answered in the chat. So they're on my pad here. I've just posted all of the links for you as well into the chat. So you should now have access to all of those across the social media channels and on the chat here in the webinar platform. And then what we will also be doing is we will also be giving out the handouts. So there's 6 different handouts here that you guys are going to be able to get a hold of, which will be inside the platform. So again, we've had many people on here who've been joining us from different parts of the world, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Maybe they've gotten a little bit tired and said, I'm so sorry, but I've got to go to bed now. Is there going to be a recording? There absolutely will be. So you can go to your platform, you can grab the recording there. The handouts will also be there as well. And as Ian said, the avatar coming out next week, which sounds amazing. So that is that's the end of the slides, Ian. Before we let everybody go, any final thoughts, any final words?
Well, my final words are that, you know, the slavery system and the constraints and the control system is getting worse. A lot of people are struggling. You know, the Monopoly board is a difficult game to play. For a lot of people, it's you know, it's the cost of living is a bit of a crisis for them. You know, they're struggling to make ends meet. This is, you know, I called it the game changer because it is the game changer. It solves just about every problem on the Monopoly board. In addition to this, we are working on launching AI and avatar systems for things like voiding mortgages, mortgage foreclosure, tax problems, etc., where, you know, you'll be able to manage your own cases, void your own mortgages, etc., working with an avatar and an AI system. We're running pilot schemes on those things at the moment, which are going very well. But I just want those that are tuned to our frequency, because, you know, the frequency that we're all on is to establish our own nation with its own infrastructure, in peace, with honor and integrity, and to help people to rediscover who they really are. All of us have got a genius talent. Just imagine if you didn't have to go out to work every week, every day, and run your business that you perhaps don't like. What could you do that could make a difference with your genius? Because we've all got a genius. We've all been blessed with some genius. We've all got the ability to add back and make a difference, make a positive difference. I'm doing it through the Clifford Protocol and the other protocols. What could you do if you didn't have to go out to work every week? You know, what could you do? You might want to take some time off, get it, but eventually, and I used to have a lot of very, very wealthy clients years ago who sold their businesses and then 6 months later came back to me and said, hey, bit bored, Ian, what do you think? Should I start a new business? Because I want something to do. So yeah, you may be in that category, take a rest, but then you'll probably want to do something that with your time. Not, you don't have to, of course, but that's what I want to see. We're going to be running conferences. Members from all around the world will come to them. I know they will. We did one in 2023. It was oversubscribed within an hour of us launching it. People queued up outside. If we all come together with positive energy and play Monopoly the way that the game's been designed, what a difference we can make for our community. You know, we're not going to beat the cabal. There's no way we're ever going to beat them. They're too big, too powerful. They've got everything covered. But we can carve out our own freedom. And that is why I've been doing this for all these years. It's nothing to do with taking donations or, trying to enrich myself. I'll leave you with this thought, guys. I have built many, many systems in my time. I run a sports trading platform. It equals the trading platform that Tony Bloom, the owner of Brighton Football Club in the Premier League, runs, and Matthew Benham, who runs Brentford Football Club. My sports trading platform alone would keep me very, very comfortable, I can assure you. I do not need to do this. No matter what anybody says, I do not need to do webinars every Saturday and operate 7 days a week working on the freedom plan. I don't need to do it, apart from I want to be free and I want you to be free. And I'll leave you with that thought.
Well, thank you, Ian, again, for your time, for your energy, for your efforts. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure to host. And we've had some lovely comments as well. I have taken a note of your questions and we will answer those. And thank you for your polls as well. We take that very seriously. For those of you who are new and you want to start, we don't want that slipping through the cracks. So I've taken a note of the numbers and we'll do what we can to get the team to reach out to you. Obviously, you've got the link there as well where you can actually book a call. So I'm just going to very, very quickly post them one more time in the chat for you guys so that you can see them there. I would say if you're brand new to this, the main link you want is that top one, which is lvfree.click/TGE. That is the booking page. If you want to go through to a consultant, then that is the page you need. But for now, have a fantastic day. The recording of this will be on the platform for you shortly, along with all those handouts. Have an amazing Saturday and weekend. And I'm sure we'll see you on the next live stream where Ian and I will be digging into something even deeper than we have done already. And that'll be early part of next week. Talk to you soon, guys.
Bye for now.